Excellencies and distinguished guests. Is it okay? And its possible impact, importance and ramifications for the modern world, especially India. I am thankful to Confederation of Education Excellence and Indian Philosophical Foundation for Modern Education, especially Ms. Shruti Arora, for inviting me today. I know that in this August gathering, there are eminent academicians, Indologists and intellectuals who will be guiding us during the day, and I look forward to enriching from these deliberations. Friends, it is globally acknowledged that India has been a leader among civilizations of yore and had contributed to human excellence through exceptional intellectual skills, unique educational architecture, philosophy, spiritualism, and evolutionary and universal value systems that existed thousands of years ago, be it in astronomy, mathematics, science, numerals, culture, holistic medicine, or early surgery. Even urban planning during the Indus Valley civilization in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa would baffle many for its planning and mature development. India gave numbers and numerals to the world that were carried by Arabs to Europe. The basic binary system as an IT and software tool came out with the invention of 0 and 1. The famous Shunya is in fact the beginning of our being. No wonder in modern times India has emerged as a leader in the information technology, which has a lot to do with the basic tenets of focus on education and a traditional knowledge base. I think it will be useful to look at few achievements by the well-known teachers, philosophers, rishis and practitioners. As you are aware that foundational and guiding principles were inscribed and passed on to generations orally through Guru Shishya Parampara and early instructional texts, most famous being Vedas, Upanishads, treatises, and Veda etymologically means sheer knowledge in its holistic, comprehensional dimension. Philosophy has been the guiding light of social interactions and development. The range of thought was amazing, even then. While we had the Brahmanical schools of thought, underscoring spirituality and renunciation, we also had Charvaka school of philosophy that propagated and highlighted the importance of materialism in its highest state. India and its Vedic culture has contributed much to the world, such as its music, beautiful forms of astronomy, holistic medicine, and Ayurveda, and the mathematical system based on number 10 and other aspects along time to yoga, because that is extremely popular nowadays. Body through gradual and consistent healing and improvement in the practicing human beings is indeed a gift of the mankind. While it had declined in India, and I think we need to congratulate and acknowledge the contributions by many of our recent gurus, but like Mahesh Yogi, Baba Ramdev, and many others who have popularized it at the classroom level in India and abroad. You'll be surprised that in the United States, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Almost 10% of the Americans practice yoga. There are thousands of yoga teachers. There are thousands of yoga institutes in the country, and everybody is doing that. But what has happened in 2014? That was a watershed year for us. When Prime Minister Modi went to the United Nations in the Assembly, and he proposed that a day for international yoga should be marked. And those of you who've been following this development can imagine that even the most difficult countries who could not have supported us became the co-sponsors of this resolution at the United Nations. It was first time in the history of the United Nations that 177 countries voted for International Yoga Day to be celebrated every year. That was the first time. No other resolution ever in the history of United Nations has been passed with that majority, which shows that there is an awareness of its benefits for the people, for an average individual in their lives. I want to tell you that I served in Arab countries, and at the time when we had to celebrate the first Yoga Day, we had a meeting of the ambassadors here in Delhi, in which Mrs. Sushma Swaraj and the Prime Minister Modi, they mentioned that all embassies have to celebrate the Yoga Day on June 21st. Now, June 21st happened to be the day during Ramadan period. And being in the Muslim world, where, why go there? I mean, even in India itself, we have some people who question its religiosity. It was a bit sensitive for us. So I did raise this question. Then we were told that, well, if you cannot go outside and if it hurts the sensitivity. So on my return to Jordan, I went and tried to find out. I met some royalty and asked them if they would like to sponsor and be the chief guest for the event. And I was surprised that there were almost 14, 15 yoga centers in Jordan alone, in Amman alone. And all of them said that it doesn't matter. There are people who are practicing, and they are all mostly Muslims or Christians or some other nationalities and religions, that they are practicing yoga, and even during Ramadan period, there is no dearth of people coming to celebrate. They said since it's a pious month, more people come to practice and meditate. And that was a great. And I was able to get one of the princes, the sister-in-law of the king, His Majesty King Abdullah, to be our chief guest of the day, apart from many others. And we started with a little small place, like a hotel like this, to organize, but the number of registrations kept on increasing. And it became impossible to really have any more registration that place. So what I'm saying is that there is an awareness, and this connects to us. And what we thought was a catchy phrase was, because Jordan, the Dead Sea in Jordan, is located at the lowest point on earth. So from the heights of Himalayas, you can travel to the depths of the world, the lowest point on earth. So that was something which was a very, very important achievement by India, and it has brought a great awareness about our spiritual heritage. And without any religious interpretation or the meaning given to it. There have been people who would always criticize, because this is our culture. This is our civilizational heritage, to argue and debate. So even if you like or you don't like it, there will be always two kinds of people who will say it. But at the end of the day, people do what helps them. It's a system in which it helps you internally and be in unison with the outside world. Second point I would like to mention is that we face a lot of conflicts all around. We are all hankering for peace, even though the countries responsible for maintaining the peace do not necessarily employ the means that would ensure peace. Instead, it generates more conflicts. But for India, peace was within, and peace with the outside world was the wish ingrained. And we always, as you know, often we hear in our homes, especially those who are Hindus, Om Shanti. Every 5-10 minutes, your father or grandfather will get a Om Shanti. Our prayers are always aimed at not only our own welfare, but of the larger global public good. Sarv Mangal Mangali, or for that matter, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Nirabhayan, is what we aim for. Now, a verse from Samveda, and I know there are experts here who will further elaborate on these, said, May there be peace in the sky. May there be peace in the mid-region. May there be peace on earth. May there be peace in the waters. May the medicinal plants be peaceful. May the forest be peaceful. May there be peace in gods. May Brahma be peaceful. May all the creation be peaceful. May there be peace and peace only. May such peace come to us. Hence, there's a need to follow our age-old precepts. Now, some of the greatest achievements in our time were in the field of mathematics, which is what has ensured a continued success and in the world, not only for India, but for other countries as well. Now, in which the Vedic mathematics stands out. It's something we talk about several thousand years ago, which was because at that time there were other civilizations, the Greek, the Roman, the others. They did not have that kind of mathematical genius to be able to get those calculations like the ones from India. Once the Arabs took the numerals to the Western countries, that's when the real progress started beginning in the Renaissance period. But in the Arab countries, when I went there and I wanted to tell them that look, they reinvented zero, reinvented the numbers. Obviously, these are known as Arab numbers in the Western world. But they themselves, the Arabs called itself as Al-Arkan al-Hindu, the numbers. Hindu is India in their language. And the system of mathematics was known as Hindisat or the Indian art. And this was eventually, many people who really studied, they realized that yes, it has come from India. It's our traders and philosophers, Al-Biruni and everybody else who had traveled to India had taken it along with them and passed on to the British through the their own civilization of this thing. In the several, I don't want to bore you with the thing that you already know, that the alphabetical system, the Pythagoras theorems, Aryabhata's achievements, the distance between Earth and that the Earth goes around the Sun and not the other way around, which was known in the West for a very long time. And all those things were done. It's unimaginable today. It was done so many hundreds of years, thousands of years ago by a proper calculation. This has led to the growth of science and education. Similarly, our Vedic art, culture, dance forms, they have a lot to be proud of. They are still continuing and surviving despite the lack of support it is given by governments or by private sector, public sector, other organizations, which is needed in my opinion. I would also dwell a little bit on Ayurveda. I'm sure that there is somebody from Department of Ayush who will be speaking in greater detail. They are doing a great job now under the new system. Now, Ayurveda is not merely treatment of a disease. It is also a system whereby you have a healthy mind, healthy body, and a preventive mechanisms. So there were various kinds of panchkarmas and whatnot, which one tends to achieve at that kind of a good health, a preventive health medicine, which the diseases could be prevented in advance, and you have a longevity, a good life, that you can lead a healthy life. Education in the olden times, of course, the one thing I would like to dwell upon is the experts will be speaking about how the education was taught and what were the basic things. But the most important thing at that time was Guru Shishya Parampara. Now, the Gurus were your whole being once you are there after Upnayam or whatever ceremonies were conducted. Thereafter, you go to the ashrams, 24/7 you are in his company. He is watching you all the time. He is making you understand not only the higher knowledge, but according to one's own abilities, the capacities, they train them, including the vocational education. Today, when you see that for a job of a peon, PhDs and MPhils and masters are applying, you can imagine that we are going towards literacy and not necessarily the education. I find people in the villages far more educated in that sense. They don't have degrees. They may not be literate. They may not have, but their sense of daily being is far more sounder than the people who have gone through this. But what has happened to Guru Shishya Parampara today? After the Britishers, Lord Macaulay's famous 1833 diktat, we have made progress, no doubt. We understood, we learned from the Western education system. It helped us come up to a certain level, especially through English of the colonialism that we suffered. But it was not done out of any charity or any manufacture. Their ultimate interest in life. And this is precisely what we did. Today also, we find amidst us more Gora Sahibs than the Goras themselves. So this is how a cultural winning over. I think Mahatma Gandhi, when he spoke of his basic education model, he tried to somehow of that system. The moral values from our systems had gone. We became far more materialistic in a cutthroat competition. You can't have the rules if you do not have some kind of restraint. We learned Vidya Dadati Vinayam, but today, where is the politeness in your daily discourse? I mentioned that when we go outside, there's barely anybody saying namaste to you. Everybody will smile and wish you, good morning sir, how's your body, how are you? They still, in African countries, you still find that kind of a thing, which somehow, today your son will not like to touch feet. You know what I mean? They would rather come and shake hand or do this. I'm not saying that it is absolutely essential, but it meant that anybody coming in front of you and bowing for benediction would be blessed, even if it is an enemy. He cannot curse you. So there was something to it. The Gurus, as you know, the Guru Gobind dono khade kaake lago pa. And Guru's station was higher than the God in you because he showed him the path. Your parents were your first Gurus. The value systems had to be taught by the parents. In the first place, today what we are seeing in the society is pathetic. There is no regard for anybody. The women, what is happening to them? What we see today, it's a shame that some of our capitals are called the rape capital of India. It's amazing that we are not doing enough at the grassroots. The grassroots level begins at home, where the respect. In the ancient times, we used to say, Ramante tatra devta yatra daristu pujanti. Okay, we do not have to revere the woman like a deity or a goddess, but give the regard as you give it to your mother, your sister, family. But that has to come from within. When you go out, you must know that interaction with the society has these values. I'm afraid those value systems have eroded over time. And that is the result today what we are seeing in the society. We may have a material progress. We may have a development of certain kind. I mean, you may say, okay, we have reached the moon, we have reached the sky. But I think that many thousands of years ago, if you see our Vedas, you see the Mahabharata, you see the Ramayana, all these things, even if in imagination, at least, they can't exist in a vacuum. They did. That kind of higher science existed, which transported you from A to B. And we cannot, the Germans have done the maximum research. They are the best Indologists who read all our Vedas and have done tremendous jobs. Their libraries in Heidelberg and other places are amazing. And they have benefited from it. And that's how they grew in that time, even wrongly somehow in the 1940s. But this is what happened. And we have to do something for this. Another thing is, in the family we are sitting, I was just mentioning to my friends here, the two people are sitting in the room, both of them are talking with one another through Facebook. Everybody is busy on their mobile phone. Among the family members, hardly any interaction. It's every household's story. I was telling the other day I went to meet my nephew. The young boys, 14 and 10. The argument in the house was not what you are studying. The argument in the house was that I want the latest Samsung 7, J7 or whatever. not this. Why? Because my friend has it. That is the thing. It is not okay. We are all as parents. I think the Indian parents are one of the worst because they are always chasing their children to study, even though whatever their interest is. So, and the respondents from 18 to 23 age group, you'll be surprised that only 10% people knew what the colors of the national flag stood for. And only 40% could sing the national anthem. Less than a third knew who Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev or Rajguru were. Now, what does it show? An apathy towards even 100 years old, less than 100 years old. Even that, which was most important for us, we are free because of those people. The national anthem, your flag, represents your being. But not knowing it, then what do you know? You don't know your history. You don't know your culture, you don't know your civilization. Then your existence, by virtue of your color, is not going to take you anywhere. We may always talk about great heritage that we have inherited through centuries without knowing what it is. And it doesn't take you very long, doesn't take you very far. And that's why it's very important that we saw. I remember many years ago as a young man, I had seen Manoj Kumar's film, Pura Pashchim. And there was a song in that film. And they have Preet Yahan Ki Geet Sada, Main Geet Wahan Ki Gata Hu. If you listen to just that song, it summarizes, captures beautifully the essence of India. Essence of what we stand for. We don't take more than from nature. We respect our nature. We respect the stones. We respect the trees. We rever everybody. Why? It is also for selfish reason. Because if the earth is not there, then we are not going to be there. We took whatever was necessary. So therefore, it is very important to know our roots. And education's basic purpose should be to make you understand what it means, what it entails, from where we are coming, where we are going. I would like to quote from noted historian Professor Labib, who in December 1947 was speaking at the Indian History Congress immediately after our independence. It was very prophetic. Allow me to quote, "The future citizen will be a creation of laws consciously planned for the public good. The fundamental task of the Indian state, therefore, is to create a national cultural group or a national community which may inherit all that is best in the cultural groups of old and set us free from the vicious interests which are seeking to dominate our lives. The process requires thorough uprooting of old and proved evils and a careful coordination of elements of proved value. Differences of religion there are and will there be. In this there is no harm. But unless the revolution succeeds in creating one state, one law and one national community for the whole land, we will be faced with a period of anarchy such as India has never witnessed in the course of a long and much troubled history. I sincerely hope that without tampering with the history, the new education policy will address the fundamental issues by appropriating what is worthy and relevant from the past for our future development, poised with merit and balanced thought processes and behavioral patterns. Friends, allow me to close by quoting Sri Aurobindo. He said that Indian sacred architecture of whatever date, style or dedication goes back to something timelessly ancient and now outside India almost fully lost. Something which belongs to the past and yet it goes forward to. Through this, the rationalistic mind will not easily admit to something which will return upon us and is already beginning to return, something which belongs to the future. And this is what he meant by our ancient Indian heritage. Thank you very much once again for inviting me. Pleasure.